All right, here is your grammar video. Pronouns and their uses. We are going to be digging into a whole unit here on pronouns with a bit of a stopover dealing with the personal essay here in a couple of days. So pronouns and their uses. So first off, a couple of things for you to understand about pronouns. First, a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. It can be used in a sentence in places a noun would be used, such as a subject, predicate, nominative, direct object, indirect object, object of preposition, or a positive. So here's an example. Alex Dunbar is our bus driver. He knows every rider by name. So in this case, the word he is simply replacing the words Alex Dunbar. So that's a pronoun replacing a noun. Number two, an antecedent is the word for which a pronoun stands. Alex Dunbar is our bus driver. He knows every rider by name. So here's the pronoun again, and here's the antecedent, the word for which the pronoun stands. Note, the antecedent is not always stated. So in this example, the sentence says, was she at our house? The antecedent of she and her is not stated in this case. Okay, number three, there are various kinds of pronouns. There are personal pronouns, and they refer to the speaker, such as I, me, we, us, my, mine, ours. The person spoken to, you, your, yours, and the person spoken about, he, she, it, they, him, her, them, his, hers, its, their, and theirs. Those are the personal pronouns. Then there are also interrogative pronouns. They are used to ask a question, and they are who, whom, whose, which, and what. Then there's the demonstrative pronouns, and you can see the word demonstrate is there in the word demonstrative, and so these are the pronouns that demonstrate something. They point out the person or thing referred to. They are this, that, these, and those. Then there are the indefinite pronouns. They do not definitely point out persons or things and do not usually have antecedents. They are each, either, neither, one, everyone, everybody, no one, nobody, anyone, anybody, someone, somebody. Both, few, several, many, some, any, none, all, most. And next, we are on the next page, we're going to be learning about three different categories for these indefinite pronouns as well. Okay. Next, E, compound pronouns are pronouns combined with self or selves. That would be myself, ourselves, yourself, yourselves, himself, herself, itself, oneself, themselves. And then finally, there are the relative pronouns, which are used to introduce dependent clauses, and they are who, whom, whose, which, and that. And you've already been using these when you were introducing dependent noun clauses in the previous chapter. Four of the teens who attended the retreat were cousins. Note, many of the words called pronouns here may also function as adjectives. Each entry, his jacket, and some function only as adjectives. And we'll deal with that later. Okay, let's move on to the exercise here. I'm going to do several of these for you or with you. So you should also be doing the same thing on your page. This is page 176, exercise. Number one, underline each pronoun. 2, above each pronoun, identify its kind. Write A for personal, B for interrogative, C for demonstrative, D for indefinite, E for compound, and F for relative. Let's go to number 1. Pray for those that persecute you. All right, so let's look for the pronouns. So the easiest one that will pop right out is you. Okay, that's an easy one. But there are actually more. In this case, there's also those. Pray for those, and that. Pray for those that persecute you. Okay, so let's go back and get the obvious one here. So the obvious one was the personal pronoun you. But what about those and that? So let's deal with those first. So those, if we come back up here and check, those is demonstrative because it points something out, right? So it's those. So we're going to be writing C for demonstrative. And then what about the word that? Well, remember that the word that often comes at the beginning of dependent noun clauses, like we learned in the previous chapter. So that's going to be one of those that comes at the beginning of a noun clause. And those are called relative pronouns. And so we are writing F for relative. So you should have underlined those, that, and you, and you should have labeled them C, F, and A, respectively. Let's move on to number 2. They that deny themselves for Christ shall enjoy themselves in Christ. Okay, so the first one up is going to be they. That one's obvious. Then there's the word that. And then there's the word themselves. For Christ shall enjoy themselves. Okay, so I think that is it. Yes, that is it. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. So they is going to be a personal pronoun. So we're going to give that one an A. And then that, the word that is one of those relative pronouns that introduces a noun clause. We're going to give that one an F. Themselves. So that's one of those compound pronouns. And so in this case, we're labeling those E. And then themselves again, so E. So we should have underlined they, that, themselves, and then themselves. And we should have labeled them A, F, E, and E. All right, let's do one more yet. Love gives itself, it is not bought. Okay, in this case, we have love gives itself, it is not bought. Okay, so you got these two, itself and it. And so itself is going to be one of these compound pronouns again. So we're going to go E for compound. And we're going to go, the word it is going to be a personal pronoun, I do believe. I just want to make sure about that. He, she, it, yes, okay. So that is going to be an A. Now, if you also are struggling a little bit with these labels, the A, B, C, D, E, F, they correspond with these here. So A, B, C, D, E, and F, okay? So if that helps you at all, I'm happy. Okay, so you should have copied these into your book as well, and you'll be doing numbers 4 through 10 on page 176. All right, let's move on to page 177. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry here when I took the picture, so my bad there. I guess it's a good lesson to when you're taking your pictures as well, to make sure that things are nice and clear when you take them. So I'm sorry about this, how things look here on the screen. Okay, let's take a look here. Making verbs agree with pronoun subjects. 1. Learn these verb agreement rules for pronouns and use as subjects. Memorize the list of pronouns in each rule. Okay, so these are all dealing with indefinite pronouns, right? That was one of the 5 or 6 different, 6 different types of pronouns we learned about on the previous page. Now we are dealing specifically with just indefinite pronouns. And these indefinite pronouns are going to be are either singular or plural or either, depending on which of the indefinite pronouns we're talking about. So these first ones are always going to be singular, and they are each, either, neither, one, everyone, everybody, no one, nobody, anyone, anybody, someone, somebody. Those are always going to be singular. And then here are the examples. Everyone in the room is working toward a definite goal. So everyone is working, so that's singular. Each of the visitors was taken on a tour of the campus. Each was. Neither of the contestants was well prepared. Neither was. Those are all singular. Then the second grouping is going to be plural. They are both, few, several, and many. And so quick note here, if you try to imagine when you're using these two different kinds of pronouns, the singular indefinites and the plural indefinites, you can see why one of them is singular and one of them is plural. So like in the case of the singular ones, like if you say each of the contestants, well, in that case, when you say each, you actually mean each individual person did something. Therefore, it makes sense for it to be singular. But if you use as the first example here for the indefinite plural pronouns, the word both, well, that means 2. And the word few means, well, probably at least 3. And then several could mean, who knows how many, at least 2 or 3, or if not more. And many would mean you're probably more than 4 or 5. And so those obviously just intrinsically mean that there's going to be multiple people multiple people or things represented. Okay, so these indefinite pronouns are the ones that are plural. They are both, few, several, and many. So once you've got that memorized, which one's singular and which one's plural, they end up being a lot easier, pretty easy to deal with, because you just have to remember which one's singular and which one's plural. The next ones, the last list, is the hairy one, because this is the indefinite pronouns. They can be either singular or plural, and they are some, any, none, all, and most. So how are you going to determine if they're singular or they're plural? Well, you've got to determine the number of these words. To determine the number of these words, look at the context of the sentence. So some of the harvest was completed by November. So the word was is singular. So we're saying some of the harvest was completed by November. Now this one is just obvious. I don't even really have to explain it. If you just use the other the other option here would be the word were. So some of the harvest were completed by November. That doesn't make any sense, and so it's going to be was. Some of the crops were frozen. Now we're talking about crops, and so note that in the first case we were talking we were referring to the word harvest, and in the second case we were referring to the word crops. And so that's where you can really look to see if it should be singular or plural. So harvest was, crops were. So you can make sense of it through context, through the context. And in this case, the context means looking at the prepositional phrase that follows the pronoun. Okay, all of the land was cultivated. Okay, all of the land was cultivated. So in this case, we'd look at the word land. We'd say land was or land were. Okay, it's obviously land was. All right, and then all of the seeds were carefully planted. So in this case, we look at the word seeds. Seeds were. Okay, so it's going to be were. Okay. Also, note, verbs ending in S are usually singular. Okay, wow, this is almost giving me a headache from looking at this picture. It just makes it feel like I should be able to rub my eyes and make that go away. But you should rub your eyes these days. Okay, excuse me. Exercise A. Cross out each incorrect form in parentheses. Okay, most of the water of the Dead Sea flow or flows from the Jordan River. Okay, it's got an indefinite pronoun here. Which of the categories does it belong to? Category 3. It could be either singular or plural. So we've got to look at the context. So we're looking at the word water here. So water flow or water flows? Oh, it's going to be water flows. So we're going to cross out the word flow. It's flows. Okay, number 2. Anyone in a position of leadership need or needs to maintain high personal standards. Okay, so we're dealing with the word anyone. So which of the categories does it belong to? The first category. Anyone, anybody, someone, somebody. So anyone, so it's going to be singular. So remember that verbs that end in S are the ones that are singular. So it's going to be anyone needs. Cross out the word need. Okay, number 3. Everyone in the Patriot Club is or are encouraged to go on the trip to Washington, D.C. Okay, once again, this one belongs to the first category, so it's going to be singular. Therefore, it's going to be the word is. We cross out are. Okay, why don't we do number 4 yet? Many of the sailors who served under Columbus was or were eager to return home. So we have the word many in this case. Many belongs to the second category, which means plural. And so we have to pick the plural verb here, and that would be the verb were. Many of the sailors who served under Columbus were eager to return home. Okay, there you go. Excuse me, sorry to keep on yawning. That's not good. All right, let's take a look here at exercise B. Write sentences to illustrate rules 1 and 3. So just use one of the pronouns from rule number 1 there for the first one down here, and then the same for 2 and 3. All right, finally, let's move on to page 177. Whew, on to a clearer picture. Okay, got 2 rules here to take a look at. Number 4, doesn't, isn't, and wasn't are singular and must be used with singular subjects. Don't, aren't, and weren't are plural and must be used with plural subjects. Exception. Use don't with the pronouns I and you. Most errors occur when don't is used incorrectly with he, she, or it. Okay, incorrect. He don't play football anymore. Correct. He doesn't play football anymore. Incorrect. It don't matter to him. Correct. It doesn't matter to him. Okay, number 5. The verb agrees with the subject, not the predicate nominative. Do not be confused by a predicate nominative that differs in number from the subject. One of his favorite snacks is peanuts. The predicate nominative peanuts is plural, but that has no effect on the subject-verb agreement. Let's take a look at the exercise. Exercise A, cross out the incorrect form in parentheses. Okay, doesn't or don't she know how to make a Spanish omelet? Well, this is a singular one, so we're going to use the word doesn't. Doesn't she? No. Cross out don't. We hope he wasn't or weren't seriously injured in the accident. We hope he wasn't. he wasn't. Although the situation you're in may be difficult, it don't please the Lord, or it doesn't please the Lord for you to complain about your circumstances. It doesn't please the Lord. Okay? And I'm going to leave the rest up to you. All right, let's take a look at exercise B yet. Use doesn't in 2 sentences with pronoun subjects and don't in 2 sentences with pronoun subjects. And then 2, so do that for numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then write a sentence illustrating rule 5. That would be then for number 5 there. So rule 5 again is one of these sentences that has a pronoun in the subject and then has a predicate nominative. So remember, if you have a predicate nominative, that means you have to have a linking verb, such as the word is. And then you have to have a predicate nominative that differs in number from the first, from your subject. So if you're going to say he let's see. Interesting. I'm trying to come up with one on the spot here. It's probably gonna you're probably gonna want to stick with the word one here. That's probably going to be about the easiest way to go. So in that case, let's just stick with the example here. So just make sure that if one in this case is going to be singular and that your predicate nominative is going to be plural. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with there. Okay, that is going to be your assignment for today. Pages 176, 177, 178. Be sure to complete anything that we have gone over.